So good afternoon students, this is Arvind, Assistant Professor, Department of EEE, PBR Viswadaya Institute of Technology and Science, Kavali. Okay, so in the previous classes I discussed about the introduction to the HVDC transmission. So in that one, earlier discoveries of HVDC transmission I discussed, and after that I discussed comparison of HVAC and HVDC transmission by using three cases. One is economics of transmission and technical performance and reliability concepts, and after that I discussed about the limitations or disadvantages of HVDC transmission and advantages of HVDC transmission and applications of HVDC transmission and comparison of HVAC and HVDC transmission in tabular manner. Okay, and after that I discussed about the types of DC links, and after that I discussed about the power handling capabilities of HVDC line in a derivation, in the manner of derivation. And now in this class I'm going to discuss same concept, that is power handling capabilities of HVDC line in a theoretical manner. Okay, so let us start the session. So here the power handled means power converted. Okay, so power handled means power converted. So how much AC is converted into DC is handled by DC lines is referred as power handling. Okay, how much AC is converted to DC is handled by DC lines is referred as power handling. So here the power handled by an HVDC lines depends on the type of power conductor device used for power conversion. Okay, the power handled by HVDC lines depends on the type of power conductor device used for power conversion. That means either thyristor or GTO or IGCT or IGBT, like that we are used for the power conversion as a device. So depending upon the type of power conductor device, we have to take the power handled by HVDC line. Okay, so for the sake of economy, thyristors are being used in HVDC converters. So for the sake of economy, thyristors are being used in HVDC converters. So a HVDC line can carry more power compared to an equivalent HVAC lines. Okay, so a HVDC line can carry more power compared to HVAC line. So this is because of relative loading of line or natural loading called as surge impedance loading. So this is because of the relative loading of line or natural loading called as surge impedance loading, that is SIL. Okay, you already know the surge impedance loading. So what is surge impedance loading? The surge impedance loading is the type of the power load. So in this case, the total reactive power generated is equal to 0. Okay, so along with thyristors, GTOs, IGBTs and IGCTs are also used as the power conducted device for the power conversion. Okay, so for the sake of economy, so we are using the thyristors as the power conducted device for this one. Okay, so next, so by maintaining the load and voltage within specific limits, the power handling capacity of EHV transmission lines can be increased. So EHV transmission line means extra high voltage transmission lines. Okay, so by maintaining the load and voltage within specific limits, the power handling capability of EHV transmission lines can be increased. So here we are using the methods few methods to maintain the voltage within the limits. Those are, first one is shunt capacitor bank, and next one is shunt reactor, and third one is synchronous condenser, and fourth one is static wear compensator at heavy load, and fifth one is series compensation. By using these five methods, we have to maintain the voltage within the limits, that to load and voltage, okay, within the limits. So firstly I will start with shunt capacitor bank. Okay, so the shunt capacitor banks are operated to inject the reactive power for maintaining the voltage within limits at heavy loads. Okay, so shunt capacitor banks are operated to inject the reactive power for maintaining the voltage within limits at heavy loads. Okay, so these are installed near the load terminals. That means the shunt capacitor banks are installed near the load terminals, that is factory substations and switching substations. Okay, so the shunt capacitors are located near load points and in receiving substations to supply reactive power to inductive loads and to improve the power factor. So actually, you know already, so we have three types of loads. One is resistive load and another one is a capacitive load and another one is inductive load. So the resistive load is a linear load and the capacitive load is a leading load and the inductor load is a lagging load. So for any factory and for any switching substations, they are giving the lagging power factor, that is the inductor load they given. Okay, so thereby the lines and transformers can supply real power. Okay, so actually shunt capacitors are located near the load points and in receiving substations to supply reactive power to inductive loads and to improve the power factor. But here, thereby the lines and transformers can supply the real power. So here the shunt capacitors may be installed at supply point. Okay, the shunt capacitors may be installed at supply point feeding to several loads as a group of power factor correction and also sometimes near substations is shown in the diagram. So in the left side, I'm showing the diagram. So that is the shunt capacitor bank is located nearer to the load points. That is, and the receiving and the sending end, we have the voltage that is Vs, and the receiving end we are having the voltage that is Vr. So after receiving end, we are taking the capacitor bank. We are placing the capacitor bank nearer to the receiving end. So on the right side, we are showing the we are showing the capacitor banks is placing nearer to the substations. Okay, so here we are using one bus bar. So that bus bar consisting of transformers, and after the transformers, we are using the capacitor bank nearer to the substation. Okay. So most of the industrial loads draw inductive currents of poor power factor. So I already said that. So for the industrial purpose, they had the electricity board gave the industrial inductive loads. Why? Because they give you a poor power factor. Okay, so most of the industrial loads draw inductive currents of poor power factor, that is 0.7 and 0.6 lagging. Okay, so the shunt capacitors provide leading volt ampere, thereby the total kVA loading of substation transformer and the current is reduced. Okay, the shunt capacitors provide leading volt ampere, thereby the total kVA loading of substation transformer and the current is reduced. So therefore, the IXL drop of the line is reduced and voltage regulation is improved. Okay, therefore the IXL drop of the line is reduced and voltage regulation is improved. So therefore, switching shunt capacitor should improve the busbar voltage. Okay, therefore switching shunt capacitor should improve the busbar voltage. And coming to the second method, that is shunt reactor. So by using the shunt reactor, what will happen? So here the shunt reactor can be single or three phase according to our requirement. Okay, the shunt reactor can be single or three phase according to our requirement. So the shunt reactors are used to increase the grid stability and to maintain an economically acceptable level of insulation on networks. Okay, shunt reactors are used to increase the grid stability and to maintain an economically acceptable level of insulation on networks. Okay, next, with long transmission lines between power plants and consumption areas, we use these shunt reactors. So this is the diagrammatic representation of shunt reactors. So here I am taking a transmission line which comprises of capacitors and shunt reactors. Okay. So coming to the features of shunt reactor. So the shunt reactor maintaining acceptable voltage at the load. Okay, the shunt reactor maintaining acceptable voltage at the load, and these are limiting transient over voltages induced by switching load decreases. So these are limiting the transient over voltages induced by switching load decreases and decreasing the line losses by capacitive current reduction. Okay, decreasing the line losses by capacitive current reduction. So in this one, the shunt reactors are compensating the capacitive reactance power of the transmission cable with only light loads. and they improve the system stability and efficiency of energy transmission. They improve the system stability and efficiency of energy transmission. And coming to the next one, that is synchronous condenser. So previously we discussed about the shunt capacitor bank and shunt reactors, and now series shunt reactors, and now we are going to discuss next method, that is synchronous condenser. So this synchronous condenser, basically synchronous motor operating at no load with over excitation, is known as synchronous condenser. So here the synchronous motor can operate at both lagging and leading power factors by changing field excitation from under excitation to over excitation to maintain the bus voltage. Okay, synchronous motor can operate at both lagging and leading power factors by changing field excitation from under excitation to over excitation to maintain the bus voltage. So let us consider an inductive load. So for example, if we consider a inductive load driven by induction motor and lighting and heat load supplied through the transformers. So for these loads, current drawn by transformer and induction motor from the lines will be lagging. So since power factor is very low value, when the synchronous condenser is used, the leading power factor can nullify the lagging power factor of loads. That is, synchronous condenser compensate the lagging current drawn by other equipment from the supply. Okay, since power factor is very low value, when synchronous condenser is used, at that time the leading power factor can nullify the lagging power factor of loads. So that means synchronous condenser compensate the lagging current drawn by other equipment from the supply. So that means the synchronous condenser improves the overall power factor of the systems. And coming to the advantages of synchronous condenser, so the synchronous condenser improve the stability of the system, and also it consists of same voltage can be maintained at both ends of transmission lines. The synchronous condenser maintain the same voltage at both ends of transmission lines, and also it supplies a large amount of reactive power. And coming to the disadvantages, the maintenance cost is high for the synchronous condenser, and the synchronous condenser produces noise during operation, and installation cost is also high for the synchronous condenser. Maintenance cost and installation cost is high in the synchronous condenser. And coming to the applications, the synchronous condenser is used where improving the power factor under heavy load conditions, and it is also used in a transmission lines for maintaining the same voltage at both ends. It is also used in a transmission line for maintaining the same voltage at both ends. Okay, next method is series compensation. Next method is series compensation. So here I am showing the diagram. So this diagram shows the schematic arrangement of series capacitor. So here a series capacitor is connected in series with the line in order to reduce inductive reactance XL between the load and supply point. Okay, so this is the capacitance we are adding to the line series to the reactor in between the sending end and receiving end. Okay, next, so here the voltage drop in the line before capacitor and after capacitor connection is like that, that is delta V is equal to IR cos phi R plus IXL sin phi R. So this is without compensation, that is without inclusion of the capacitor. So that is IR cos phi R plus IXL sin phi R, and with compensation, that is the inclusion of the capacitor, the voltage changes to delta V to delta V nu, that is delta V nu is equal to IR cos phi R plus I into XL minus XC sin phi R. So this is the equation for the inclusion of, after inclusion of the capacitor into the line. So here the voltage drop delta V nu in the line reduced with the use of series capacitors in the line, and hence VR is increased, and hence receiving end voltage is increased. So coming to the series compensation, so in this one I will show the diagram, that is this diagram shows the phasor diagram of the line with series capacitor connected in series with it. So in this diagram, I am taking the current as the reference phasor. So in this one, the current is leading the voltage. So why the current is leading the voltage means, so here we are using the capacitor. So you already know the capacitor is a leading power factor. It consists of the leading power factor. So here I am taking the current as the reference phasor, and in this one the voltage is the leading with the current I, and in this one we are having the sending end voltage and receiving end voltage, and after that we have the drops, that is IRX drop and IRL drop and IRC drops we have. So these things, these are the IR, IXC and IXL drops. So from the phasor diagram we can say that when the X by R ratio of the line is large, then the ratio X by R expressed as a percentage is referred as percentage compensation. Percentage compensation. And next, coming to the next concept, that is next method, that is static wire compensators. Static wire compensators. So a static wire system is a reactive power controlling device employed in the AC grids of HVDC system. Okay, a static wire system is a reactive power controlling device employed in the AC grids of the HVDC system. So here a static wire system is also called as static wire compensator, that is SVC. So there are two types of SVCs. They are thyristor controlled reactor, that is TCR, and thyristor switched reactor, that is TSR. Okay, firstly I will explain the first method, that is thyristor controlled reactor, that is TCR. So in this one, the thyristor controlled reactor consists of a fixed reactor of inductance L and a bidirectional thyristor switch. So here I am showing the diagram, that is a single phase TCR. So in this one bus bar is present. So this is the bus bar, the horizontal line. So for this bus bar I am connecting a reactor, fixed reactor, that is it L, and for that reactor I am taking the thyristor valve or thyristor bidirectional thyristor switch. So this thyristor switch consists of two thyristors parallel to each other, that is thyristor 1 and thyristor 2. Okay, so in this one the thyristors can block voltage up to 4000 to 9000 volts and conduct currents up to 3000 to 6000 amperes. So in thyristor controlled reactor, the current in the reactor can be controlled from maximum to minimum by firing angle control. So where alpha is equal to 0 degrees, the thyristor T1 is closed. So where alpha is equal to 0, at that time the thyristor T1 is closed, that is switch is closed. So at the crest of the applied voltage, then current flowing through the reactor is same as that of the steady state current. Okay, so when alpha is equal to 0, the thyristor T1 is closed, that is switch T1 is closed at the crest of the voltage, applied voltage, and then current flowing through the reactor is same as that of the steady state current. And these are the waveforms to represent the thyristor controlled reactor. So here when the alpha is varies between 0 to pi by 2, here the current in the thyristor is shown in the figure. These are the current waveforms I am showing. So firstly I am taking the steady state currents or steady state voltage, supply voltage, that is in the sine wave. It is between 0 to 2 pi, that is 0 to 2 pi means 0 to 360 degrees. And after that I am taking the current, that is the reactor current, the IL, at alpha is equal to 0 and alpha is equal to 90 degrees. So at IL alpha is equal to 0, that is the waveform is like this. It is also a sine wave, but it starts with the negative sign, negative side, and after at alpha is equal to 90 degrees, it only represented the positive side. Half sine wave represent is there. Okay, and from that waveform I am taking the magnitude of current in the inductor is IL of t is equal to I by L integral alpha to omega t VL of t omega t dt. So from this one IL of t is equal to I by L into or 1 by L into integral alpha to omega t. VL of t is the V cos omega t d omega t. So that is equal to V by L into after integration of v cos omega t, we have sin omega t by omega with limits alpha to omega t. So after substitution of upper and lower limits, we have IL of t is equal to v by omega L into sin omega t minus sin alpha. So when current reaches to 0, thyristor will turn off and conducting period of SCR is sigma is equal to pi minus 2 alpha. That is, it will conduct from alpha to pi plus alpha, alpha to pi plus alpha. And thyristor control, coming to the next one, that is thyristor controlled reactor. So in this one, this is the diagrammatic representation of amplitude of fundamental component of reactor current. Okay, amplitude of fundamental component of current, reactor current, that is ILF of alpha. So in this diagram, I am taking the graph between reactor current versus time t. So in this one, I am taking the amplitude of fundamental component of reactor current, that is IL of alpha. It is in the linear range. So it is slightly decreasing. So actually it is in the increasing order, and after that it is decreasing in the slope. So next, coming to thyristor switched capacitor. So in this one, on the left side we have the thyristor switched capacitor diagram. So in this one, I am taking the capacitor to the bus bar, and it consists of the thyristor valve or switch, and it consists of the reactor also. Okay, thyristor switched capacitor. And the right side we have the waveforms for this operation. So here we are taking the waveforms supplied voltages when the thyristor, that is the TSC, is on and TSC is off condition. These are the waveforms representing for those two conditions. When the TSC is on, left side of the waveforms are appear, and when the TSC is off, the right side of the waveforms will appear. So whenever the SCR is closed, the TSC branch is connected to a sinusoidal AC voltage source. So whenever the SCR is closed, the TSC branch is connected to a sinusoidal AC voltage source, that is V. So from this one I am writing V is equal to Vm sin omega t, and the current in the branch is given by I of omega t is equal to V into n square by n square minus 1 into 1 into omega c into cos omega t. So when TSC is on, voltage across the capacitor is maximum if current is reaches to 0, and if TSC is off, voltage across the capacitor remains constant. That is, voltage across capacitor Vc is equal to n square by n square minus 1 into V. So where n is equal to 1 by root of omega square LC in, that is equal to root of XC by XL, that is the reactance of capacitor divided by reactance of inductor. Okay, so up to now we discussed about the power handling capabilities of HVDC line in the theoretical manner. So to explain those power handling capabilities of HVDC line, we are used 5 methods. Okay, one is shunt capacitor bank, shunt reactor. Okay, shunt capacitor bank, shunt reactor, and after that we have the compensation and series reactor, um, series compensator, and a synchronous condenser also we used. Okay, and in the next class I am going to discuss basic conversion principles or static conversion principles of HVDC of the converter. Okay, thank you for watching this video.